All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Excuse me, wow, my voice took off there for a minute. I'm going to share the screen. I was going to do an edit to this, but I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do the video, and we'll watch ever how long of it that we, it just depends. But I know from just the title alone, I don't agree with it. So I'm curious to see more about this, and I thought, you guys could give your feedback on this as well. I'm kind of getting to where I kind of like doing these reacting to videos and stuff. So let me go to where I need to be to share and get this started. All right, let's see. There we go. And then I'm going to get the audio. Give me 1 second, you guys. Let's get the audio. All right, here we go. All right, and now we've got audio sound. Again, you're going to hear the screen reader. Some of you are going to have no idea, what is he talking about.
Optimize share for full screen. Share computer sound. High flow meeting. Share computer sound. Checked.
Okay, so we got that.
Zoom free account.
Let's go ahead and go to, I want to make sure.
Status presented. Setting button. Return to meeting. Schedule button. Monday, December. Change background. No upcoming meeting. Home tab check. Search edit type. Zoom top. Setting button to active. Return to meeting button to activate. Press space bar. Schedule button to activate. Press. Meeting controls. More button drop down.
Let's make sure
Dr.
that
button to active. More button drop down.
we have got the
Contact.
audio
Meeting.
shared
Optimize.
here.
Share computer sound. Checked. High flow meeting.
Okay, yeah, we're good
Meeting
on
menu. Zoom free
that.
account.
All right,
347
so
San Diego. Share Fisher sentence.
here we go.
Next shift. Play A button.
I am on the video now. Again, sheriff charged for 16 counts of sexual assault. And I don't know about you guys, I don't even know the full situation to this, but if he's guilty for 16 counts of this, 16 charges, I do not think 44 months is long enough at all, let alone it's not enough for someone that's not a sheriff, let alone being a sheriff. That punishment should be even more stiffer, I believe, because you're to uphold the law. You are responsible to make sure that things like this don't happen, Mr. Officer. But in your case,
347 San Diego. Share Fisher sentence.
Richard, what was the last name? Say that
347
again.
San Diego. Share Fisher sentence.
Richard Fisher. Yeah, no wonder. Look at the last name. Something fishy about that, I guess. Let's have a listen here.
Okay.
You're going to want to testify and what type of information is going to be provided to the court. What I'll do, though, is request that the...
Now, guys, the audio is going to do that. That's not me going to one side, but I'm sure to go right back. It's just the way they're recording.
Okay.
The media, one, to comply with all local rules, and number two is that all victims' faces are going to be tiled, referred to by their initials. If you can't tile, then you're not to shoot their faces. And I'll let you use your discretion and not shoot in their faces. And you can shoot their bodies or however you experts want to do anything. Okay, so I'm going to sign those orders. Ms. Von Helm, do you waive Miranda, judgment and sentencing?
Yes, no, I do.
Okay. So, first of all, I appreciate the parties' submission of documents. I've read not only the probation report, statements of mitigation, statements of aggravation, and supplemental sentencing reports. I also went back over my preliminary hearing notes, since I'm the one who heard all the victims testify. I read the psychological reports of Dr. Lipson, Dr. Carroll, Dr. Clipson.
And I wanted to add real quick that with anything like this that happens, since I've been in college, I've really learned a lot about, the victims that, the stuff that they suffer from, the stuff that they got to deal with, when these kind of crimes happen. I believe that, we should take care of the victims. We should do everything possible to make things easier on the victims, and people, and I've heard this from other people, they sometimes think that the victim is specifically the one that was directly in the crime that took place. And that's not the case. That's a victim, yes, but family members, right? They're victims of this. Friends, they're a victim because in one way or another, these people are suffering from what happened to their loved one. Anyways, I'm kind of getting off track a little bit, but I just wanted to throw that out there, that I believe that we should work harder to make sure that, we take care of the victims when these type of events happen.
Okay.
I reviewed the probation report. I reviewed the numerous statements from the victims. Additionally, I considered Marcy's law and its application in this case, which I'm going to have an extensive dialogue about. Let me also note that there were papers filed.
And we're probably, let's move forward a little bit, you guys.
Seek slider left, seek slider left, right slider. Play K, seek slider left, right slider.
It's hard.
0 minutes 6 seconds.
We're going to move forward a little.
1 minute 8 seconds. 1 minute, 2 minutes 9.
In response, the DA's response was to a document filed by
Okay, we're going through the DA stuff here.
Obviously, the sexual assault victims,
3 minutes.
they have a right, and the court has a duty to protect the exploitation of those names and the expression of those names in the public. So I sealed the criminal protective orders. The redacted criminal protective orders exist in the open section of the court's file entitled People v. Fisher. There's documents for May the 30th, 2018. Those are the witness lists with the full names of the witnesses who appeared at the prelim. Again, those names are sealed at the preliminary hearing. Those
All right, let's move forward more.
5 minutes 2 seconds. 5 minutes 3 seconds. 5.
February the 20th, 2019, the Sheriff's Department filed a motion to quash on a subpoena duces tecum. The subpoena was issued by the defendant's prior criminal defense lawyer. The sheriff responded to the request. Both documents contained the victims' names in total. So I sealed those documents.
Okay.
6 minutes 34.
Document.
6 minutes 30.
And the document itself is rather
7 minutes.
2019.
I'm just moving forward on some of this because it's just stuff that
I sealed
we don't really need to.
under Marcy's law.
8 minutes. 9 minutes.
I'm going to request
9 minutes 40. 9 minutes.
there
9
is
minutes.
a case number here. Let me,
Let's move forward more.
10.
I'm just kind of skipping forward, you guys. That way we're not watching, all this stuff that really is not going to do us any good to watch that. I've got the link down below in the description so you can watch the entire video if you see fit. That's fine. That's why I shared it.
12 minutes 16.
courtroom. Is there a people's motion on that case that is ending?
Okay. I'm just kind of going through here. I don't agree with the time on this that the sheriff was given.
All right, so those are the sealed documents. Additionally,
We want to get to the case.
issues.
14.
Yeah, sure, I would ask
14 minutes.
that I need to redact them then because some of
Redact
them,
what?
off of the letters, so I'll take it in two parts. So there's the psychiatric records, some of which lay out his address, location, that kind of thing. If I could just look at them before you unseal them and redact any personal
Okay, so just protection on records, stuff like that. Let's move forward.
Mark.
17 minutes. 19 minutes 3 seconds.
All right, I'm gonna go slowly here. Tanya D.
All right, here we go.
Referred to as Tanya D.
That's fine.
Okay, next.
Nora G. Deborah A.
I believe these are all the victims, you guys. These are all the victims.
Liza R.
Next.
Wendy F.
It's sad. It really is. Let's just
Michelle P.
we're gonna move forward some more.
23.
'Cause these are all the victims
No.
of this case.
24.
Is it related to
25 minutes.
any of the, really the sentencing, in particular the sex registration and felony, you know, whether or not he's convicted of a felony. Now, at that time, by the way, Your Honor, I believe only 2 had been charged. Their incidents had been charged as sex crimes, and I believe only 1 had been charged as a felony. Now, I'm not a criminal attorney, so
That's incorrect.
okay. But the vast
But just so the record's clear, there were multiple felonies. There was a specific sex crime charge under 1192.7 that when that charge exists, the people, the court, and the defense are prohibited from negotiating under the California Penal Code.
right, the vast majority of them, I believe, were charged as batteries, misdemeanors.
No, they were charged as felonies under Penal Code Section 149. Battery under the color of authority.
Okay.
That's what I bound over on felonies. That's why.
That's fine, and that's the understanding that we had, and at that time they simply said we are not making any demands.
Sure.
Because they wanted the case to settle. Because of the July 10 email,
Okay,
that
let's move forward here.
Deal, end quote. So that is when I had to take the levers in this case, because when, and you know, this is a trial attorney that
28 minutes.
have different feelings about the case at
28
different
minutes.
times. I don't have a problem with it. But the prosecution
I'm just
was
skipping
ordered by
forward, you
this
guys.
court to communicate with the victims, as the probation department has a statutory obligation to communicate with the victims. You may proceed.
Your Honor, I'm not aware of any order. No one ever told me of an order where you informed the DA and ordered the DA to talk to my clients. I know that on July 24, the DA asked you for that order and you refused to give it. That's what the record, the transcript says. It was at the next hearing, was the first time any comment was ever made by you that you in fact had ordered them.
And I'm allowed to make orders. I do it all the time.
I'm not aware of any order.
I made the order. And it's in both of the defense and prosecution's paper throughout the motions that were filed from August to the present day. I ordered them to do it.
Yeah, I'm focusing on the July 24 transcript where you said, I cannot order you to do that.
I wasn't ready to.
Okay. So at some point after July 24. I never once said that the victims did not want to go to trial or were not willing to go to trial. I'm not aware of any victim that ever wants to go to trial.
Okay, I just quoted your document, sir.
My document said that we prefer this case to settle
Okay.
instead of go to trial.
All right.
And we said, and they also said that we're not making any demands. Right? Now, as a result of that,
You said the people demanding that you were not demanding that he plead guilty to a felony or register as a sex offender and would prefer the case not to go to trial. Okay,
Exactly.
I get it. But you're a trial lawyer too in a different environment, and we take these things to heart. We listen to victims, and the DA did.
Absolutely.
okay, another point I want to make is that my clients,
Play A.
Okay, so what I'm taking from that already, they didn't want to go to trial on this. The lawyer that was representing for this sick-minded sheriff, they didn't want to go to trial. They didn't want to go through with felony charges or being a sex, being on the sex registry or anything. Why would you not? What? I don't get that. Why would you think that the victims would be like, oh, no, it's okay. We don't need to go to trial. Again, no victim likes to go to trial, but they're going to go to trial if that's what it takes for justice to be served. So why they would even try to get away, I get it. The lawyer's going to defend their client no matter what it is. When you do something and you get a lawyer, it is their job as your lawyer to try to help you in any way possible to make the charges not as harsh as what they could be. So let's move on.
Okay.
Thoughts on this case and what they wanted to say to the court has not been evolving.
Well,
They've been
you
consistent.
may choose your language, all right?
They've been consistent.
What is it that you want me to know about the victims?
I'm trying to get to that.
Get to
On
it.
July 10, I sent this email.
Get to it.
And each of the clients
the
today are reaffirming that email. That they're not making
let me
any
hear-
demands.
So, Mr. Gilly, I need to hear what the victims have to say, not what you have to say.
Right. I am telling you what the victims have to say.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right. So they also want to make sure that the court, they want the court to know that they at no point ever told the DA that they felt strongly that sex registration must be part of any plea deal, because what that meant was that they would rather go to trial than there be a plea deal without sex registration. And that simply is not the case. They did not want to go to trial. They wanted the case to resolve, and they were not making any demands.
Now, and I don't believe that, guys. I don't believe that. Why would a victim be like, no, I don't want to do this? That just, I don't know. There's more to that we just don't know. And I'm going to dig more into this case to get more, just to see more about this case. And I'll do an updated video later on. If you guys would be interested in me doing that, just let me know.
Okay.
Also, by the way, as the court has mentioned, you cannot negotiate sex registration as part of a plea deal. So I'm not sure how that possibly could have happened in the first place. But that statement that had been made to this court by the DA repeatedly is not correct. They want the court to know that. The declarations, after all of this started, the declarations that I submitted to you directly on September 4th, those declarations there, they pointed out a few things. And one of them that was very consistent with that was that statement that the DA had made to you, that they would rather go to trial than let Mr. Fisher go get away with not having sex registration.
What? That just blows my mind, doesn't it, you guys? I mean, okay, well, yeah, I sexually assaulted, and I've got 16 different charges of sexual assault. But no, I don't want to be on the offenders list or directory or whatever. That should not be a part of the plea deal anyways. And I don't think that it was. I think this lawyer or whoever this guy is here, I don't think he's got all of his ducks in a row. I just don't. But let's move on.
Okay.
Was not true.
So let me ask you this. Do the victims want me to know how they feel about sentencing under Marcy's law, or do the victims want me to know how you feel about the DA's office and the defense?
Well, that's a good question, because one of the victims actually did want me to address how she felt about the DA's office and the criminal justice system. As you are aware...
So, Mr. Gillian, then let's hear it. But I'm still hearing opinion from you in argument about the DA's office. I don't really care what the DA's office did in this case. The defendant pled guilty to these charges, and I have to get to sentencing. So the issue before me is, and just like the order I gave the DA's office, what do they want to see in the sentence under Marcy's law? Doesn't mean I'm going to follow it, but I want to hear from the victims.
Okay.
I'm trying to get to that, and I probably would be finished by now. It's a very...
Mr. Gillian, I'll shut you down in just a second. Okay? You don't need to... Your phone goes off again. Post reminder, cell phone's off. You can proceed with the victim's wishes. I'm going to limit you to that under Marcy's law. Go ahead.
Okay, the declarations that they signed under the penalty of perjury,
I've read those.
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay, and that, what I want to say, Your Honor, is they have nothing else to add in addition to that. Okay, I cannot, though, tell you whether or not this chart, this chart that was prepared for you, I cannot tell you whether or not that is accurate.
I don't need you to.
Okay, I just, and you have that, so I cannot address that. If there's anything in these statements that you've obtained that we have not obtained, I cannot address that. So that's the point I wanted to make was we've talked, you know, their thoughts and their opinions have been presented to the court.
I'm stepping back in on this some of it.
They
but
reaffirmed
that's okay.
those, and they really have nothing to add. There was one victim that wanted to comment on the DA's office, the way the criminal justice system, the way that the sex crimes were dropped the last hour without notice, those sort of things. But I'm not sure that that's something that you need to hear about for purposes of sentencing. If it is, I can let you know what she thought about that.
Well, if she's upset about the plea, and I don't know, well, I think I do have an idea of which victim that is. She had a right to know that the plea deal went down. She had a right to know to have made comment about it, but ultimately she does not have the right to decide how the case is disposed of.
You know, and just to say, with my knowledge of going through criminal justice in college, that is correct. The victim has a right to know what's going on, charges and stuff like that, but they have no authority as far as what the outcome actually is. And I can understand that because, you know, a victim is going to be really upset, and I get that. I totally understand why and how you know, rough that can be. But they had to keep it professional as far as when it comes to setting out the charges and stuff like that, because something might happen to you and you might be so mad and be like, oh, you know what, no, throw away the key, right? And so if they allowed that, then people would be doing time even longer. Now, I'm not saying that someone that sexually assaults someone like that should not do time, but you know, it's they do that for that reason, so that charges are done best possible, and so that justice is served. And we've seen in the, you know, in cases where justice wasn't served, and I get that too, but I can understand the judge's point on that as well. Let's go ahead and move on.
Correct. So I just want, she did make a point of that. I think that if she were up here to talk herself, she probably would want to talk about that. But I'm not sure that you need that for purposes of sentencing.
I don't, and I did read that. I mean, I'm Mr. Gill, I've been trying, with all due respect, since July, to get as much input as I can from the victims to make the appropriate judgment. That's what I'm doing.
Right.
Okay? I don't judge the conduct of the DA's office, the defense, or the sheriff's department. I'm judging the defendant's conduct too.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Mr. Dunn, you want
SH.
Can you just come to the podium, please, and state your appearance, please? And who do you represent for that? I'm sorry.
Sure. Elliot Young and I represent both KP and SH.
Okay. And you have a statement from
KP.
KP.
And then if I could just have a moment after I'm done with KP, I just want to clarify with SH on whether or not she wants to read her statement or if she wants me to read it.
That's entirely appropriate.
All right, so this is more of the victim stuff here.
And this is for KP. It's difficult to find the right words to describe how I felt when I arrived at Las Colinas detention facility on the night that I was arrested by Richard Fisher. It was the only moment throughout the night that I cannot simply put into words, although I can, however, remember how cold it was that night and how I was wearing sweatpants, knee-high socks, slippers, 2 shirts, and a sweatshirt. Or how I could feel my face get hot as I washed my car, get put on the tow truck, and the anxiety I felt knowing that it's the day before Thanksgiving and my son was going to wake up and me not be there. How uncomfortable it was to have a deputy take one pat down and turn it into multiple searches. Not to mention the shock, disgust, insecurity, and utter vulnerability I encountered as I stood there in handcuffs, in the cold as he took his sweet time using his power to take advantage of my body for his own sexual enjoyment and make me feel like I was nothing, as if I had absolutely no worth and stood an inch tall with no way to protect myself. The nervous sickness in my stomach as I felt the bulge in his pants pressed up against me. With all the emotions and confusion, I was in no way prepared for the fear and intimidation that overcame me as he stopped the car down that dark dirt road and asked me if I was scared. It was as if he was testing me. All I could think was that this man, SD Sheriff Deputy Richard Fisher, was going to rape me. When I arrived at Las Colinas, my heart stopped pounding so hard and my hands stopped shaking so uncontrollably. For the first time in my life, I was praying to go to jail. When I got to Las Colinas, it's as if all those feelings warped into one. First there was sadness, anger, disgust, fear, and then relief. In 2016, I wrote a letter to the Internal Affairs IA in hopes that it would shed light on Fisher and his abuse of power. Due to the Sheriff's Department's negligence, I now carry around this heavy coat of guilt. Guilty of the fact I let my fear and doubt hold me back from having the courage to come forward in a more forceful way to ensure that what happened to me wouldn't be swept under the rug. As the number of victims kept multiplying, I was so disappointed in myself, knowing that nothing was done to prevent Fisher from preying on grandmothers, mothers, and daughters. The charges are of no justice against the totality of the acts he committed. There are so many reasons why this sentence is important.
Play case.
Now, before we move to the next one that he's going to read from another victim, this is an ongoing problem, you guys, at, not just one police department. It's all over. And, people wonder why there is this discretion and hatred toward, people hating police officers and all this stuff. This is why. Because of crimes like this taking place and then justice not served to its full extent. I don't believe justice was served here. I don't believe that 44 months is enough time to, I don't know. I'm lost for words on it, to be honest. To have an officer, pat you down and then sexually assault you and touch you in places you don't want to be touched and put their body up against you. I think that one charge, one person, one victim, maybe 44 months. Probably, really, I don't even think that that's long enough. I think it should be more like 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. That's my opinion, but that's all I have to offer. Let's move on to the next victim and see what their letter had to say.
Many reasons probably overlooked.
And by the way, you guys, I want your opinions on this, so leave your comments down below. I appreciate the viewer that we had. I don't have the name in front of me right now, but I appreciate your feedback on the last video that I did with another video I was doing about police officers and law and all that stuff. So be sure to leave your comments and also tap on that subscribe button because I plan on doing more of these if you like these type of videos. So make sure you tap on that subscribe button, click on that little bell, set your notifications. That way you're notified anytime that I publish a new video. And yeah, let's move on. Give us a thumbs up, if you will.
Okay.
For me, it has influential significance. I'm a single mom to a 3rd grade little boy. My son does not know his father, so he looks up to my younger brother for that male guidance. My brother has taught my son how to be tough, helpful, respectful, and honest. My brother is also a law enforcement officer. He's a genuinely good person with integrity and a servant's heart. If you ask my son what he wants to do when he grows up, he would tell you. He wants to be a cop, SWAT to be exact. My son has always known police to be a sense of security, protection, and honesty. But he knows about this case. Knows of some of the things that Fisher has done. I know his innocent mind doesn't fully understand. I keep telling him that anyone who breaks the law will face the consequences, and that even police officers get caught. Like most parents, I cherish the values and the morals that my only son is taught and the ethics he learns that will ultimately mold the man he will become. No matter what happens today, I am worth something. I am somebody. I'm not someone you can just have with your way. I hope the punishment that he receives demonstrates that no one is above the law. Hopefully, he will seek help and finally realize the damage that he's inflicted on not only all of us victims and our family, but our family as well.
Not only that, but when these officers do this type of stuff, they damage their department. The reputation of their department is inflicted by this. You know, if you have an officer at your local department go out and do something horrible like this, it's gonna have an impact on the department that officer works for. And remember, you wear a badge to serve and protect. Serve and protect. Plain and simple. And that's it. Not to have your way with people. Not to let people that you like to get away with, you know, whatever, speeding or drinking and driving or whatever the case might be. Again, it's about seeking justice. Let's move on.
Okay.
KP.
Thank you, KP.
If I could have a moment to talk to SH real quick.
And now we're getting ready to hear another from another victim. I don't know if she's going to speak or if he's just going to read the letter. I think that, you know, if victims, and I know it's hard, some just can't do it.
So the media's gonna
They just
follow
can't do it, but
orders.
Yes, sir.
I think it's even better when they can stand up
Do you want me
and
to use
show
your
their
initials?
face or let their voice be
I need
heard.
to use my cell phone.
That's quite all right. Can I just use your initials?
Yes,
What are your initials?
SH.
SH, okay. So what I've done is I've told the media they can't photograph your face, okay?
Okay.
And I want you to tell me everything you want. You can use your phone.
Okay.
I have notes here too, okay?
Okay.
So feel free to express yourself, okay?
All right, thank you. My phone's slow.
Okay, that's all right.
Really slow.
So right now she's waiting for her phone to load. I guess she's got her notes on that.
Mr. John, what I'm going to ask you to do is write your client's name out in full. I'll receive that name, and then I'm going to seal it, okay? So that the appellate court has some record of it.
Yes, she's definitely got a
Slow?
slow phone
Okay,
there.
now
Okay.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
Do you want to email it to us and we'll print it for you?
If I can, that would be great. Thank you. It's funny, my phone's not working.
She's evidently having some
Mr. Chung, you
phone
don't have
problems
your
there.
database, so.
No, I don't. Yeah. Is that it?
All right, yeah. No.
All right, so they're emailing it real quick, and then she's gonna read it off the paper, I guess. But I don't want to skip it. I don't want to go ahead too far, so we'll just hopefully it don't take that long.
Seek slider, left, right slider, 45. Seek slider. Seek slider, left, right. Pause K button.
Sorry about that, you guys. While we're waiting, though, I want you guys to think about that, and again, leave your comments. And if you are a viewer that maybe you're a victim of something similar to this type of situation, please feel free to leave your comments on what you think about. Do you think 44 months is long enough? Is that charge fair to you? If you was a victim, would that be fair to you? 16 counts of sexual assault.
Okay.
16. I am just amazed that they only gave him 14 or 44 months.
When I found out I would be able to speak my mind regarding the impact and the effect it's had on both me and my family today from what happened and what the defendant should receive as time served, I knew exactly what to say. But when you put pen to paper, you get lost. We all know what the defendant has done. We all know what he utilized. We all know how he utilized his position as a sheriff to commit these crimes. However, only the victims and their families know at first hand the fear from the crime itself and the overwhelming fear of the repercussions of coming forward against the same people who are supposed to protect them. What started out as a routine traffic stop on a rural road late at night has now taken 2 years from my life and from my family's as well. That night, I had argued with my boyfriend and was on my way to my daughter's when I was pulled over. I knew I was in trouble. No taillight, suspended license, no registration. I thought for certain I was going to jail. Instead, I was sentenced to 2 years of my life and my family's life to be taken away, never to be regained. That night, I was searched inappropriately. My vagina was touched, my buttocks cupped and fondled, while my hands restrained behind my back, all by an officer of the law. I recall that night and how difficult it was for me to wrap my brain around what was happening. Today, I can't wrap my brain around driving to the store I think everything bad that happens is linked to this case from me coming forward. For example, I tried getting counseling and my Medi-Cal is discontinued. I file my tax return and I get audited by the county tax treasurer, and I don't even own any property. When I first told my boyfriend what had happened, he seemed angry at me, but then I felt that he didn't even believe me, which caused me to not want to be intimate. He finally gave up and has moved to live with his daughter in Indiana. We were together for 5 years prior to this. The effect this has had on my family is the worst part of all. My son has been arrested at his home on 3 separate occasions by the same officer who happens to live in the same town as the defendant. All 3 arrests were from some unknown alleged warrant on a 2013 DUI case where the probation period had expired by 2 years. There never was any warrant, and he was released each time, but only after we posted bail. He used to be an avid surfer. He's lived in the same home for 18 years. He's not only afraid to step outside in fear of being arrested, but he's embarrassed to face his neighbors. I believe this was indeed retaliation due to this case. I have no life. For 2 years, I've lived in fear and constant stress. I've become an emotional wreck. It's gotten so bad that it's affected me mentally and physically, and is the underlying cause of numerous recent health problems. The defendant deserves to serve the maximum amount of time possible. I feel that this will allow us to not have to worry about him on the streets while we try to move forward, allowing us the time he's taken from us to find some relief. By the time he gets let out, I want for me and my family to be far away and out of California. I want for us by then to have moved on with our lives. I know it will take time, but I want it to be time he is in prison. Most importantly, I want the defendant to be forced to register as a sex offender. I will never heal or live freed of fear or be able to restore my trust in our system if he is able to do this again.
Blake 8.
I'm going to stop real quick and just touch base on that a little bit. First of all, I do believe that when certain officers get in trouble, I do believe that victims can most definitely be in danger. And I'm not saying for this, for every department, every place around the world, but there are definitely places where I'm sure this has happened and it will continue to happen because let's face it, that officers stick together. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Now, should they stick together when something bad happens? Absolutely not. And I'm not saying all officers say, okay, yeah, that's my buddy officer. Who cares that he raped someone or assaulted someone? I'm on his side. No, not all officers are going to do that. Not ones that are responsible and that are actually there to do their job and their job only. You're not there to be an officer to be some type of friendship academy. Yeah, you can be friends with your buddy partners and all that. I get that. You look out for each other. But not when something bad happens. That's when you should not be looking out for your partner officer. You should still be looking out for the citizens of your county. Now, take a look at she said she got audited. Never has she ever been audited before in her life. Now, I get it. There are random audits. But isn't it kind of funny that she gets audited after this happens? And I also think it's horrible that a victim feels that they have to move from their hometown, from where they should have been able to be happy. They should not be forced to move. And I'm not saying the judge says you got to move or officer saying you got to move, but they feel like they got to move because they can't stand to even see anything around there anymore. Just going down the street, it's just a horrible memory for them. So I get that. All right, I'll stop blabbing. Give me your comments on that as well, you guys. Well, I don't know her name. Let's go with victim number 2. So if you're going to talk about that one, just say, you know, victim number 2, or kind of let it be known in your comment which one you're commenting on.
Okay.
I cannot understand how sexual registration could even be a question.
And real quick, sorry, you guys, I gotta get off the button. I definitely believe that, yes, he should be on that list. Absolutely. Absolutely. It shouldn't be just if you rape someone, you go on it. Sexual assault leads to rape.
In this case.
Okay.
I feel the risks are much too great later on when and if his daughter reaches the age where she wants to have sleepovers, and the possibilities of what could happen makes my gut wrench. I am not happy with the plea offered on this case. I feel that because he committed these crimes while on duty and under the color of authority, he should have been held at a higher standard. Instead, I feel like he was given leniency. Maybe if I had been informed of Penal Code 17B4 prior, I would have found the courage to speak up sooner. I'm speaking now, and I pray that the courts will take my words today into consideration.
Let it be known that this is a problem that is ongoing. Victims not knowing what rights they have, what they can and cannot do. And she's right. She didn't know about that. How many victims really know the law when it comes down to the codes and comes down to, you know, what they can or cannot do? Anyway, we're going to move on. I apologize for the loudness in the background, but I'm sitting in my kitchen, so just overlook the screaming in the background. Okay, guys, I apologize. Let's move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming forward. I really appreciate it. Mr. John, anything else from? Ms. Delano, you're not appearing on civil. Ms. Foster, Ms. Irving, is there any other victims that wish to communicate with the court?
They'd be required.
Yes, you may.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the court?
Remember, I'm required and I do not see any hands. I do have 2 cleanup matters or housekeeping matters. Mr. Gillian, first of all, referred to one of the victims as Tanya G, and I believe he's referring to actually Tatiana D.
Okay.
In addition to that, I'm a little confused about if he represents Michelle Y. I know that we received an email from Mr. Gillian back on September 4th, 2019, on the same date we received all the declarations. And in that case, he did say that he represented Michelle Y, and that her declaration was forthcoming in the near future. We never did receive that, but to this date, our understanding is that he does still represent her. She was never represented by Mr. Gilliland, to our knowledge.
Mr. Gillian, do you know if you represent Michelle White?
I do, and I do.
Thank you.
We're going to move forward here, guys.
Okay, but seat slider, left, right slider. 52 minutes, 49 seconds, 2 hours, 34 minutes.
Anything else from the
So
court?
I got to see where we're at here. 52 minutes.
People wish to make a statement.
Well, let's wait and see what's going on here. And we're already at like an hour in, guys, so I'm not doing like minute by minute. Just the stuff that I think is important for us to hear. I mean, the whole case is important.
Protect and serve This is the reason we have a police force. The police are there to protect the general public from the evil that walks among us. The police exist to serve the public good. But what happens when the system that is supposed to defend the public instead does the public harm? When those who are supposed to be dedicated to upholding the law clearly set out to break it? When the police neglect their duties, or even worse, victimize members of our own community, victim after victim after victim after victim. This court heard every victim testify in this case and is intimately familiar with the facts. In a 2.5-year period, Richard Fisher preyed upon 16 separate women in our community, all the while on active duty as a sworn police deputy sheriff.
Disgusting.
Fisher was in full uniform, driving a marked patrol car, his police-issued firearm, baton, and handcuffs in tow. He had the power of the badge, the authority to detain, arrest, carry weapons, use force, call for backup. Defendant had sheer police power over these women, and he knew it. He chose vulnerable and defenseless women, targeting the very people he was entrusted to help and protect. Vulnerable, whether it be because they were victims of domestic violence, residential burglary, threat of violence, suspicious circumstances, or welfare checks. With 6 of these victims, Fisher was responding to a 911 call, a call for emergency services, before re-victimizing them again. In 5 of the instances,
Pause a second. That is horrible. Yeah, I mean, I get it's bad in any way, but to be going on a call that was done through 911, you're going to go to them and you're going to sexually assault them while they're calling 911 to get the help because of fear and danger.
Okay.
Fisher returned to homes after the 911 call had been cleared, without invitation and without lawful legitimate purpose. In 8 of the cases, Fisher targeted women he detained and or arrested. Some women he himself placed in handcuffs, rendering them completely powerless to defend themselves. Touched these victims' breast, genitals, buttocks, women placed in his care and his custody. None of the women felt they had any choice in the matter but to submit and acquiesce to Fisher's authority. These women were in no position to refuse. And Fisher was banking on the notion that these victims would never tell. And even if they did report, no one would ever believe them. It would be his word against theirs. But when it came to Kristen H., Fisher was sorely mistaken. Kristen had the courage and the strength to report Fisher's conduct to the sheriff's department, which then gave other victims around the county the courage to do the same.
You know, and that's what it's about. When you are a victim, you got to remember that, and I'm speaking on things that I've been educated on, you know, through college and stuff. As a victim, when you step forward, and let's say that you are the very first one, you're encouraging other victims to do the same thing. If you don't know what your options are, ask. Don't be scared to ask. And I know that it's easier said than done, especially if you're being targeted by a law official or someone in office of power. It makes it much harder to know who to go to. So I understand that.
Okay.
On September 9th of this year, 19 months after this case was filed, the day that this case was set to go to jury trial, this defendant, Mr. Fisher, acknowledged his guilt and accepted responsibility for his criminal actions against all 16 victims. The overwhelming majority of the victims wanted this case to resolve, shy of going to trial. This plea was just, this plea is appropriate. Each of the 16 victims were accounted for in this plea. The defendant stands here before your honor convicted of 7 counts. He has been convicted of 4 counts of felony assault under color of authority, 2 misdemeanor counts of assault under color of authority, and 1 count of misdemeanor false imprisonment. None of these charges mandated sex registration. However, it is discretionary according to the plea agreement. At the time that this plea was entered into, the people made every effort pursuant to Marcy's Law, the Constitution, and this court's order on several occasions to let the victims' voices be heard. The evening before our status conference on this case, on July 10th, 2019, as this court indicated in what's now marked as Court's Exhibit 1, the people and the defense received an email from the victim's civil attorney, Mr. Gillian. At that time, Mr. Gillian represented 15 of the 16 victims. In that email, and I'll read it exactly, now marked as Court's Exhibit 1, Mr. Gillian wrote, in the people's, I have confirmed that none of my clients who are victims in the people's case are demanding that Mr. Fisher plead guilty to a felony or register as a sex offender. Each of my clients would prefer that this case not proceed to trial and instead be resolved with a plea deal. As the court previously indicated, during the status conference on the next day of July 11th, that put the people in a different position.
I would say evidently there was some misunderstandings, and I got a feeling that these victims never said, no, there should not be this or that. I believe that things were altered. That's what I believe. What do you guys think on that? Do you think all the victims said, yeah, let this be done with? Or do you think they're saying, hey, justice needs to be served here? It's curious to get your guys' opinion on this one for sure.
Seek slider, left, right slider, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. 0 minutes, 5 seconds of 2 hours, 34 minutes.
Let me get back to where we need to be.
9 minutes, 5 seconds of 10 minutes.
Give me 1 second. I got to get back up to.
28 minutes, 5 seconds of.
All right, we're at 28. Give me a second here, guys. I apologize.
47 minutes, 5 seconds. 40.
Almost there.
54 minutes, 5 seconds. 50. 1 hour, 4 minutes, 5 seconds of 2 hours, 34. Play A button, active. Pause A.
Was not appropriate under the circumstances. These doctors found further that when stripped away of his power, the defendant his badge and position of authority and trust, he did not pose a risk to the community for reoffending. The issues before the court are twofold. 1, should he be required to register as a sex offender?
Yes.
And 2, what is the appropriate amount of custody, if any? Now that we have the benefit of the 3 doctors in this case stating that 290 is not appropriate in this case, coupled with signed declarations by 14 of 16 victims saying they are not demanding defendant register as a sex offender, the people at this time are not asking that from the court. The people are, however, asking this court to take into consideration all of the victim statements, the defendant's conduct, and sentence him to the maximum under this deal of 5 years in prison. This request is based on several factors. First, the nature, the seriousness, and circumstances of these crimes. This defendant was a sworn police officer to protect and to serve. He victimized 16 women over a 2-year period, all while on duty and in uniform. And although he didn't use his weapon during any of the crimes, he didn't need to. And the court heard that during the preliminary hearing. It was enough that the victims saw his uniform and that they saw what was on his belt. All of the victims in this case were extremely vulnerable, either because they were victims of crimes or because they were in his custody. Defendant inflicted emotional injury, and the court had the opportunity to hear from two victims, two women, brave
And he
women
didn't
in
even
this
get
case, who
5
came forward
years.
and talked
He
to
got
you
44
about
months.
the emotional trauma that they are still suffering
Disgusting.
2 years later
Disgusting.
as a
Seat
result
slider, left, right slider. 1 hour, 4 minutes, 9 seconds. Pause K button.
Not only
Seat
do
pause K
all
button.
16 of these women currently have difficulty trusting law enforcement, but the defendant, through his actions, has undermined the faith and the trust of the public as a whole in our law enforcement. He took advantage of a position of trust, and
Yep.
that's what this case is about, and that is what he pled guilty to. He used his position of authority to target defenseless women, the very people that he was entrusted to help. This court must send a very strong message that you will not tolerate this behavior. Hold those who abuse their positions of trust accountable. It was not easy for any of these women to come forward back then, and as the court can see, it's not easy for them to come forward some 2 years later here today.
Next shift. Pause K button. Play K. Play K.
All right, so we don't know what the case is. We don't know that it's 44 months is what he got.
Meeting controls. Menu. More. Dock the bottom button.
I
Top share
want to
button.
get
Mute
your
first. Top share button.
guys'
Alert. View.
view on this. I want to know, what do you think? Do you think 44 months is long enough? Because I don't. And I'm appalled to hear that. It disgusts me to hear that 5 years is the maximum that an officer can receive after sexually assaulting that many people. You know, we see this happen all the time. People getting away with these kind of crimes, and ones that do less serious crimes get more time. Who's familiar with that? Any of you out there that might watch this, leave your comments on that. What do you think about this case? Let me know, and let me know if you want me to do any more updates on this case, because I'm going to do some more research. I mean, this is an older case, obviously. I don't even know what year it was done, but I like going through these and just seeing what some of these are. It's interesting to see. It's sometimes frustrating to see, but yeah, that's why I do it, because I'm interested to see what you guys think. So anyways, go ahead and tap on that subscribe button so that you don't miss any other videos that I publish. And again, this isn't the only kind of videos that I do. I do videos on motivational speaking. I do videos on raising awareness for those that are disabled, for employment, for educational, college, school. I do a lot of different stuff because I enjoy helping others. And I believe even something like this can be helpful, because it's another voice speaking up saying, hey, this wasn't right and we don't agree. Anyways, tap on that subscribe button, click on the little bell, set your notifications. And if you don't mind, give us a thumbs up. The more thumbs up we can get, the better. That way we can start to get our name out there a little bit more and to get a little more attention over to the channel. You guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, wherever you might be. And New Year's is right around the corner. We just got another, well, as a matter of fact, not even a day away. It'll be 2020. So there you go. I'll see you guys.